Yesterday I had a great video telling you what I don't like about many people that are atheists. Not everyone, as some people said. You're saying all are like this. No, of course not. When talking about millions of people, large groups, obviously I can't talk about everyone as an individual, so I have to generalize. But if you haven't seen that, go check that out. It talked about what I think about a lot of people who are atheists or agnostics. And I mentioned how I walked that path for many years myself before coming to spirituality. Well, today, I'm going to tell you what I don't like about many people that are religious. Now, one of the things that kept me from becoming Christian a lot sooner was religious people themselves. My spiritual journey started about 5 or 6 years ago when I started to go back to spirituality and I started searching for these answers. And of course, as you've heard me say on this channel before, I didn't really bite the bullet till I had a baby last year. But what started me off was hearing Joel Osteen speak. And that got me really interested. After hearing Joel Osteen speak a few times, I decided that, hey, I should check this out. I should probably become a Christian myself. So I went on the internet and I started joining Christian forums and I started talking to Christian people. And they were like a lot of Christians that I encountered in the past in real life in college or whatnot. And by that, I mean they were jerks. They were creeps. And especially when I'd mentioned that I was interested in becoming a Christian because of being exposed to Joel Osteen, they became obsessed of telling me everything that's wrong with this guy instead of being happy that he sent someone searching for answers. Now, it's not just telling me what's wrong in terms of, oh, they're so concerned about what I get into and maybe trying to prevent me from going down a bad path, getting into a bad ideology. It was more like they wanted to tell me this to be like, haha, see, we're better. Like a show of superiority, moral superiority or whatever. And that really turned me off because there's a lot of people I met in the past too that were these devout Christians that were really crazy guys. They were either crazy or they just were really crappy people, mean guys and such. I've known a lot of devout Christians that are like that. And years ago I told my wife before I became a Christian, I said the problem with Christians is it's not like a doctor going to a doctor's office where you see a diploma on someone's wall, where they went to school is, what their credentials are. If someone says they're a credential, you pretty much have to take their word for it, and that's about it. There's no way to exactly prove that. But so these Christian guys, a lot of them are creeps, quite frankly. So to be fair, and maybe this kind of balances out my video from yesterday, quite frankly, a lot of Christians, they're bad people. They're hypocrites, and I can't get too much on hypocrites because here's the reality about being a hypocrite. When you have high standards, sometimes you fail to live up to those standards. If you're like Charlie Sheen and you're out doing drugs and banging dudes out, well, that guy, of course he's not a hypocrite because he has no standards. He's already in the gutter, so no one can get angry at him and be like, that guy's a hypocrite. But for whatever reason, people really hate hypocrites. But the reality is, when you have high standards, sometimes you fail to live up to those standards yourself. So I can't get too much on people just for being hypocrites. But yesterday, I watched this movie with my family called Left Behind with Kirk Cameron. I've also seen the Nicolas Cage version. I saw that in theaters a few years back whenever it came out. But we ended up watching the Kirk Cameron version. And it's not a bad movie. It's definitely a low-budget movie, and it's very relevant for what's happening today. You can see a lot of similarities of things that happen in the movies with how society is and flights canceled, everything's locked down. And the one world government, it deals with that. It's different than the Nicolas Cage version if you've seen that. But last night there was this Catholic channel on YouTube called Sensus Fidelum. And they were having a priest talk, and I joined the live chat, and I just started asking people, hey, I just saw this movie, Left Behind, and it deals with the rapture. And that's something you typically hear Protestants talking about. But Catholics, there's supposedly a Catholic version, though Catholics generally don't talk about it a lot. And all these people started getting on my case for watching the movie. And it's funny because yesterday I was also talking to my dad. When my dad went to high school, my dad went to Catholic school his whole life until college. And when he was in high school, the guy in charge of the high school, Father Earl Beckwire, or E.J. Beckwire, this guy was a sexual predator. But people are more upset, I think, some of these Catholics, they're more upset that I would watch a Kirk Cameron movie than these guys like Father Beckwire that ran Catholic high schools and were total sexual predators. They don't want to talk about that or talk about the globalist Pope and how evil he is. In fact, one guy in the live chat, he told me that we must all succumb to the Roman Pontiff for salvation. And I said, but Pope Francis is evil. And he said, well, that may be, but these are the rules. We have to succumb to him anyways if we want salvation. We must follow him. And I said, call me crazy, but I follow Jesus. I don't follow Pope Francis. He's not my God. He's just a man, and we all know what he's been up to if you've been paying attention. And when these atheists, when they say that Christianity or religion, it's a cult and the people are crazy, when you come in contact with people like that, quite frankly, they are right. And I absolutely 100% can't blame these atheists for feeling that way. Because when you come into to people like that, these people are totally nuts. I ended up actually getting kicked out of the live chat because I was using my other account, and the guy that runs that channel, he checked out my videos and he said, you need to delete some of your videos. He didn't watch any of my videos, of course, but he's telling me that I have to delete my videos because some of them have sexy thumbnails, especially the most popular videos. And out of all the 100 videos I've done, I think I've done about 600 videos since 2007. Out of all these hundreds of videos, you will not find a cuss word in one of them. You will not find anyone promoting drinking or tobacco use, nothing like that. But a couple of them are kind of sexy. And out of about 600 videos, one of them, the sexiest one, that I would agree is not for all ages, it's a PG-13 level. You see a guy shirtless, me. This is like a Enrique Iglesias music video that I starred in and directed. But you see me shirtless, and you see a woman in underwear. And it's like PG-13 level. And I would agree, I wouldn't want young kids to see that. I wouldn't want religious people or my parents or whatever necessarily to watch that one. But out of hundreds of videos, I did a video that's PG-13 level. But you have all these other guys. And by the way, this guy that runs this YouTube channel, he had a video talking about how he watches this podcast by a gay Jewish liberal. And he's saying I'm the bad influence. And there's so much division amongst Catholics and Protestants. And I don't even get into any of that. I don't debate theological differences with anyone. The only thing that I've ever really spoke out against as being not right is Christian Zionism, which you're seeing a lot of in the United States right now. But other than that, any kind of theological difference, I don't get involved in, because there's only two things that I know are true when it comes to spirituality. I know, number one, there's a God, because I've experienced it so much in my life, I would be absolutely crazy to deny it. And so number one, there's a God. And number two, prayer creates change. I'll say that again. Prayer creates change. So when you pray, it's not just something that's totally passive. It's creating a change in the world. Now, I don't know how any of this stuff works. I don't have an explanation for it. Just like if I go over there and I flip the switch and the lights come on, I know it's because of electricity. I don't know how the science of all that, how it works. I'm not an electrician. So religion attempts to explain these things that I know are true. And some of the explanations are pretty good. But the reality is, I don't know if that's true. Just like if someone came in and they tried to explain electricity and how it works, if they knew what they sounded like, if it sounded good, I'd probably just have to believe them because, well, they know more about it than me and it sounds good, but I wouldn't know that. So I'm only telling you the two things that I actually know. But you'll also have a lot of these Catholic guys. And by the way, I've experienced it from Protestants too, going to Protestant churches, and then you mention that you're Catholic. You know, you hear a lot of those New Age people talking about good vibes, bad vibes. Well, that's something that's actually true. You can feel those cold vibes when going to a Protestant church sometimes and then mentioning that I'm Catholic. Some of those people have given it to me. But then you have these Catholics that especially like that one nut that thinks we need to bow down to Pope Francis for salvation. They will tell you, people like the Robertson family, you know, from Duck Dynasty, these guys, they have a really great Bible study podcast, and I don't agree with everything they say necessarily theologically, but there's 3 of them on it, and they don't even agree with each other, and they're all ministers. But it's really entertaining as well as informative. But they will tell you, this family, this really wonderful, godly family, they will tell you they're going to hell for not being Catholic. Or someone like Brian Head Welch from the band Korn. That guy doesn't do everything perfectly, but certainly neither do I. They will be quick to tell you that guy's going to hell, even though he's trying to bring all these people to Jesus. And like I said, these people, they will criticize those people before they criticize the Pope often, before they, on the smaller level. Like, I looked up this priest that ran my dad's old high school, Father Earl Beckwire. If you don't believe me, go ahead and look him up. It's Beckwar. And I looked him up to see what people were saying. Apparently, in the city of Bismarck here, and keep in mind, it was a lot smaller town in the last century, like when my dad was going to high school, or even back in the 1990s. They had this list of 18 people working in the Catholic Church, which he was just one of them. 18 that were sexual predators or accused sexual predators. And I'm like, geez, for a very small town, there's 18? Was that like everyone that works in the Catholic Church practically in this small town? But they won't want to talk about that, a lot of these guys. But they'll be very quick to jump on people like the Robertson family or Brian Welch or whoever. So I just want to let you know that if you're struggling with some of these issues and you think some of these things, and by the way, if you check out the comments on that previous video from people that were atheists, especially depending what they said, I wasn't argumentative with them. Often I understood where they were coming from, especially someone that walked that path for many years myself, and I just talked to them and they would tell me their experience or their thoughts, and I'd be like, well, I understand how you can think that way, but I'm just sharing my personal experience with you. So once again, hopefully this video helps you guys out. Hopefully it's making your life better in some way, or at least giving you food for thought. Until next time, my friends, I have some really good videos coming up. I try and spread love on this channel. If you watch some of my older videos, they tend to have a harsher tone. Well, I'm going to have one about Ben Shapiro where I bring it back. And I want you guys to understand that when I do speak harshly, which I haven't done much lately, it's for 2 reasons. Number one, I think you guys are more entertained by it. And number 2, I think it really does help convince people when you point out the absurdity of certain things. So, and by the way, when I was talking about being judged by some of those Catholics earlier, I'm not saying I was bitter by it. I actually don't mind when religious people judge me or tell me I'm doing something wrong, because they're trying to have a righteous judgment to help correct me and put me on what they feel is the right path. And I may or may not disagree. And as you've seen in some of my older videos especially, I can dish it out, but I'm not a guy that can just dish it out but can't take it. So certainly to those people criticizing me, I have no ill will towards them. Until next time, my friends.